Good morning, Candace and Tina and Marilyn and Anna and Aaron. Good to be with you. Let's just take a moment. Yeah, let's just take a moment. I put this in the chat, but then I didn't press return. Yeah, let's just take a moment to arrive together. I always like to think of, come as you are. Come as you are. What does it mean to come as you are? Like, really to let those words have some effect, letting those words sort of sink into your heart. Come as you are. How about these? You are welcome. All of you is welcome. And when we're arriving here, in our time together, it's often like it can be muddy and clear. That's okay. We enter the gateway, of awareness through whatever we're aware of. And so you might just notice your energy level. You might notice your, your degree of presence. How here do you feel? And then you might allow yourself to be 5 or 10% more at ease. You can soften your belly and just take a few breaths. Expanding your belly like Buddha. And you can recognize this time together as being a radical act of self-care, of love. I don't care how well you think you do loving yourself. If we emphasize practice, that becomes not important. So it's oh yeah, here I am practicing self-care, practicing self-love. There might be an intention that's really alive for you. So you might sense into that. What's your aspiration? What's your longing? As we dive into the terrain of radical self-acceptance. What is it that you're most wanting to feel or receive? No, you don't have to know the answer. You can just notice what arises when I ask the question. Viktor Frankl said that between the stimulus and the response, there is space. And in that space lies your ability to respond. And in that response lies your freedom. All right, as we flutter our eyes open. Hi, Alex and Daisy. You can just go ahead and orient to your space. And then we'll orient to each other. All right. Between the stimulus and the response, there's space. And in that space lies your ability to respond. And in that response lies your freedom. That's the essence of what we're going to be exploring today. It's so good to be with you. It's so Yeah, my kids, Maryland's here. Long Beach Unified, our school district, starts school today. I have not been in a house without my family for almost what it's like, feels like it's been almost 2 years. Now I have Phoenix. Is she back there on the couch? Maybe no, she's on the floor, but I'm just like, wow, like dropping into that, the sense of that, the feeling of that as I arrive here into space with you, and am curious about why are you here? What is your aspiration or your intention? Yeah, happy first day of school. So you can put into the chat what your aspiration is or your intention if you have one. We get so caught up in the stimulus. I mean, that we will obsess about the stimulus. When I say the stimulus and the response, don't we? Like it's all about the stimulus for it's like that's our knee-jerk reaction. Let me try to fix what's broken. I don't like this thing that just happened. Something happened, there was a stimulus, and my initial response is unpleasant to me. And so I am going to do anything I can to make this go away. I'm going to repress, I'm going to project, I'm going to judge, I'm going to do all these strategies that are emotionally exhausting. I'm going to get into it's going to propel me into my addictions. It's like, this is a cycle that's worth breaking. This inability that we practice in our culture, our society, like, I mean, this is deep. Our practice of intolerance towards that which we don't find fits into our, what we think is right, or what we think is good, or what we think is true, or whatever. And so, and it's like, let me see. Good, yeah. Starting to settle from the excitement of a busy morning. Intentions are self-love, patience, and presence. Good. Yeah, my intention is for peace, patience, and space. Yes, the topic sounds like it will be very relevant. I'm struggling with this exact thing. Perfect timing. Yes, welcome. Good, Erin. Yes, Marilyn. Alex, to feel more grounded and present in my day. Yes, good, welcome. Okay. Feel at ease and peace. Good, yes, okay. So you can sense how this fight that we have with what's happening creates resistance, right? Dam a stream, it will create a new channel. Resist and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow and grace will carry you to higher ground. That's from Dana Falls. Okay, so we can kind of sense that this way that we're perpetually, and let's bring it to the self. And it's like, we can look at the world and the way we do it to the world, but how about ourselves? How about ourselves? We have this imaginary you. I have an imaginary me. And that imaginary me is the perfected me. This version of me I think I should be. Okay, and that's an imaginary. So the more I'm in my head, the more I'm going to be caught up in this. Any moment I'm not living up to this perfection. Dana Falls also said perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. Anytime we don't, measure up, which is never. So we have this kind of chronic sense of I'm not good enough. I'm not right. I'm too impatient, I'm too fat, I'm too selfish, I'm too indulgent, I'm too mean, I'm too unlikable, I'm too whatever. You have your twos, I do too. And that's because we get, and it's like in that moment, there is not acceptance of who you are, the whole you. there's judgment about who you are, what you're feeling, what you're thinking. It never measures up. It's never good enough. We're kind of living in this perpetual state of, I mean, it's so stressful. It's so, it's like on the low level, it's stressful. On the high level, it's despair, hopelessness, depression, right? To be living under the blanket of, I gotta like, I gotta keep running my self-improvement projects. I can't ever let it down, or something horrible is going to happen. So this is the path to peace. And acceptance doesn't mean approval. It don't mean I like it necessarily. I'm not saying there's all this injustice in the world, or there's all this this tyranny, inner tyranny that I experience, right? And I like it. Okay, now I have to accept, or I have to like something that I don't like. No, that's not what acceptance is. Acceptance is it's like, this is how it is. And it's not apathy. It's not like, well, it is what it is. I hate that. It is what it is. I mean, that's a bypass a lot of people get into. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a deep, like, wow, this is how it is. And it also includes our relationship to it. And I don't like it, or I really love it and I don't want it to end, or I don't really care either way. This is like the inner, this is acceptance. This is the way radical acceptance sounds or unfolds. The mistake that we fall into as human beings, right? And this is what the Buddha talked so much about, our basic predicament, really, is this, the sense that there's something wrong with my thoughts and my feelings. I shouldn't feel so anxious. I shouldn't think such mean thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, there's this inner judgment that we carry, and we think it's true. Like, we believe it. We buy into that. Like, well, no, I just should, this is wrong. It's bad. I'm bad. So then what do? We can spend a lifetime trying to, fix our own hearts, and our hearts never want to be fixed. They just want to be felt. Happiness or peace, like there's peace in the thread here, right? As you're putting it in the chat, as your intention and ease is not to be found in us or you, becoming that perfect version of yourself. It's actually in finding, which is what my teacher talks about, one of my teachers, Matthew Brensel, where he talks about fidelity with your own heart. That's what radical acceptance is all about. Fidelity with your heart. Even if, I may be enraged, murderous rage may come over me. And if it, it's like radical acceptance of that is like, this is like, right, I'm fucking really angry. Like, I want to kill this person right now, or this thing, or whatever. Like, that's the feeling I have coming over me right now. And I hate it, or I really like it. And I just stay. Because that staying without reacting between the stimulus and the response lies a space. That staying, sort of, sometimes it's like almost in the fire. We all come for the peace, but we don't come for the purification. There's a quote, that is, that I've heard a lot, and from teachers, like, come for the peace, but stay for the war. That's sort of like when we get into this into our practice, it's like that, right? We learn to be blessed by the intensity of our inner world. You know, it's like, oh, it's not supposed to be like this, it shouldn't be like this. When we get out of that and we actually start to like abide in the space, there's a response that can open up, right? That's what Viktor Frankl talked about. And in that response lies your freedom. So we have an opportunity to maybe do something different, create a different outcome than we've created in the past. So that's the freedom that's possible when we practice having this fidelity with our own heart. You know, so the first piece, you know, I was like, oh wait, before I go into that, I think the most, one of my favorite stories, and it might be one of yours too, is of course, like the story of the Buddha, right? And Mara. And ultimately the middle way is, I mean, it's not as like in a middle way sounds pretty bland, but it's like far from bland. You know, it's not an aesthetic practice. The Buddha, you know, was like, you know, deprivation and harshness to the self is actually counterproductive. Right? So denying ourselves of things, you know, like denying our physical desires, just like pushing the body away is not the path. And it leads to more suffering. But it's also not a path of feeding all the indulgences, right? Like trying to have pleasant experience all the time, which is sort of, I think that's part of the ill of it's a big part of our kind of collective problem. And with the dopamine rushes we all experience every single day because of social media, it's not helping matters much. That there's a book called Dopamine Nation, if you want to learn more about this. But yeah, so we can have issue with over and is indulging, right? Like it's like I just want to feel pleasant all the time. I don't ever want to feel bad. And so I'm just going to keep eating, or I'm going to keep drinking, or I'm going to keep, and then we need more and more, right? And it's like not over there either. So the middle way was him sitting under the Bodhi tree, as the myth goes. And all the things that, you know, we usually push down or get enmeshed with that cause suffering, you know, greed, hatred, delusion, they all came at him in the form of Mara, which is sort of like, yeah, Mara represents the hindrances, you know, and all of the stuff that we don't want to look at, that we're scared of. And instead of being at war with any of those things as they arose, and he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, not doing anything. That's all he was doing. And his whole inner world was like madness, right? You ever feel like that? You sit down, you're like, oh my gosh, not so simple. We're trying so hard. We're always sorting things. There's all this stuff going on inside, right? And he's sitting there, nothing's even happening to stimulate the greed. Greed just arises, you know, it's like from the storehouse of all the moments of greed that weren't recognized in the past, you know, so it just comes up. And instead of fighting it or getting in it, you know, satisfying it in that way, indulging it, he just said, I see you. Tamara, I see you. I see you. You know how powerful it is just to be seen as you are. I see you. Right? To be seen as, and that was like, and that was, and then Mara, the arrows Mara was flinging at the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, which is turned to flower petals at his feet. The last hindrance, so it's this meeting of it with kindness, with care, with seeing. I see you. I see you. He wasn't saying like, you're my best friend, or I approve of you, or anything like that. It was just, I see you. And in that seeing, it was transformed. And the stickiest one was shame or doubt, which I feel are very intertwined. And that was point 2 of today's talk. Because shame, I'm wrong, I'm bad, this kind of core sense of shame that so many of us carry. That's often like, oh, that's a tough, it can be so sticky, it can look so true, right? And how it showed up for Mara was, the Buddha was Mara saying, who do you think you are? Like, who do you think you are? This like, you're nothing. There's something wrong with you, right? And to that, Buddha called upon more energy, because sometimes it requires a firm no. I see you, and no. As the earth is my witness, I have a right to be here. And that was his relationship. And that's the relationship too that we're invited to have as well, with these forces within us that lead us into places where, whether it even just be a shitty thought, like, even if it's just a shitty thought that is going to like have you worried, those thoughts, like they flicker in the, maybe if that's why practice is so important, because the earlier we can see it, we can just choose, because it really is. Sometimes when we say no to worry, or we say no to, we're not saying no like it's not happening. We're like, yeah, I see you, and I'm not gonna feed you. But sometimes we feel like that's a bit, when we don't follow old patterns, it's like a betrayal of our care. You know what I mean? Like, well, wait a second. Like, I've got to just fucking I'm sorry. I've got, the profanity is just coming out. But then I got distracted by what I said. I was like, whoa, there's that. Anyway, I think you get the drift. So number 2, the way that we work with, so shame, the sense that I'm not enough, it's pervasive. I'm bad, I'm wrong, something's wrong with me. It's the other side of, I'm so great, I'm so awesome. Like, it's the other side of that. And so something that Dan and Falls also says that I really love is, don't believe in your disbelief. Like, don't believe in your disbelief. It's a practice not to believe in your disbelief, right? It's easy to believe in it. It's easy to convince other people of it too, of like, that you're not good enough or whatever, like, it's like we can get into this, like we lose our backbone. And that actually can be, I was talking to a client the other day, and it's like her mom, you might have a mom like this too, or you might be this mom, no shame, but it's like, woe is me all the time. Woe is me, woe is me. Oh, it's just, like all the time. And this kind of like, I've always, poor me thing, or I'm such a failure, I can't do anything right thing. It worked in her, and it continues to work in her family system because it gets attention. right? And people always are coming to her rescue. And so now she doesn't have the opportunity to really be who she is. And so there's this way inside of radical acceptance. Sometimes the medicine is gentleness. I see you, right? And sometimes the medicine is, it's a little more firm, especially with mental patterns and things that are arising that are, like I said earlier, like, it takes you on a path that isn't good. Like, it's just gonna, like, no, I'm not gonna go down that path. And then the last piece I wanted to mention was how important it is to, in the practice of radical acceptance, it is a practice, and the sacred pause is like the best opportunity I think that we have to kind of off gas the stress residue that can build up over the day because of all of the things because life is so busy that we don't acknowledge. Meaning, just taking a moment at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, I'm just making this up, but this is how I do it. Like, okay, I've got some moments between clients. I could check email, right? I could do that. I could look on my social media feed, or I could like take a moment, which is what my intention is. I'm not perfect at this. Put a hand on my heart and just kind of go like, what's true for me right now? What's here? And just notice what arises, like what I come into contact with. I might notice tension in my body. I might notice openness in my body. I might notice feeling good. I might notice feeling stressed. I might notice feeling angry. I might notice feeling at ease. I might notice feeling kind of numb. I might notice feeling disconnected. I might notice feeling connected. It's just like, and I hope that you're sort of doing this right now with me. Just taking a moment with yourself, sacred pause. And as I come into awareness, I'm noticing, and I will check in with you in a moment, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm concerned about, in a not good way or not a bad way. I notice concern that this is making sense to you. Noticing that my shoulders are dropping. And I'm just letting whatever I'm noticing be here without, fixing it or changing it. And then when we come out of this sacred pause, there's this reminder, if your eyes are closed, you can start to open them. But there's this reminder to come back to here. Okay, and I'm inviting us all into this right now. Come back to here. Come back to this, yeah? Just now, just here. And so then we enter into full engagement with what we're doing. Because most of the time, there's so much that we're carrying in the mind that isn't actually happening in the moment. Even very subtly, this is true. And so the antidote to that, not just the antidote, but this is like, there's nothing more satisfying than full engagement with what you're doing. This is like been, studies have been done on this. This is mindfulness. Like, just throw yourself into what you're doing with care. Yeah. And so that was the third point, the sacred pause. So just a little revisit, the three aspects of radical self-acceptance. The first point I talked about was the difference between acceptance and approval. It's not necessarily approval, but it's important that we include our relationship to that which we are having a hard time with. Okay, so yeah. I wrote a story down that I didn't mention to you, and I was like, should I tell this story? But no, I'm not going to tell it. I'll tell it another time. But it's just an honest recognition of, this is how it is. So a hangover is a really good example, right? I've had many of them in my life. And right, you wake up with a hangover, and hopefully there's enough awareness and you don't just go into denial about that and go about your day, which also happens when you drink enough. But you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I feel shitty. I feel shitty because I drank too much last night. As opposed to, wow, I feel shitty. I'm a piece of shit. I can't believe I did that again. I'm a lost cause. There's no hope for me. Okay, that's like, right, that's when we get into judgment. I'm not like approving of my behavior, or that I'm not approving of the feeling. I'm acknowledging that I feel shitty. It's just honest truth, fidelity with the heart. I may even have some regret, fidelity with the heart, but I'm not judging myself for that. And then the second piece was working with shame, which was definitely included in that last example. And sometimes, especially with really potent thought patterns and heart patterns that take us into places that really create a lot of suffering, like worry for me is one. And I'll go there fast. Someone's 5 minutes late, they're already in the hospital in my mind, like no prob. All the worst things have already gone through my head. Right. So it's like, if I start to notice that happening, I'm like, no. And then number 3, the sacred pause, how we include this into daily practice, sacred pause. Okay, let's take a breath together. And exhale. So we're going to pivot to our sit. Yeah. Yeah. So as you're making yourself comfortable, I hope that something I mentioned in that talk spoke to you. If you would, I'd love to hear in the chat, if there was something in particular that's like, yeah, that really landed for me. And then as we transition here, I also just like to mention that this Dharma talk and meditation is freely offered, and your donations really do make a difference. So any amount is great. And usually most, 5, 10, 15, 25, whatever is workable for you. You can Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle me. I'm on all the things. So anyone want to mention in the chat? Oh, also want to mention this. For those of you here, there's a couple of you that are coaches, spiritual leaders, healers, teachers, mentors, coaches. The Client Catalyst is for you, and that starts on Monday of next week, and it's free. So for that,
Katrina, I signed up for it.
Okay.
And I wanted to say that when you give me your talk, I can relate to everything, but the one that stood out is the first stuff that you talked about.
Thank you. Thanks, Candace. Yeah. Good. All right, Anna, acceptance, this is how it is, and no to worry. All right. Let's sit together. Now, if you're in a chair, it's good to have both feet on the floor. And unless your back is tight, you can bring your back away, your back away from the back of the chair. Or maybe you're lying on your back. And just for now, it's like, yeah, it's like we don't have to be sorting our life out. Like, you don't have to sort your life out right now. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and hold at the top of your inhale. And then sip in a little bit more. And relax, exhale. And again, deep breath in. Hold, sip in a little bit more. And release. And one more like that. Hold, sip in a little bit more. Let it go. We're not doing anything more than being. You don't have to try. You might sense if you can be in your body a little more. When you're in your body a little more, there's usually a little different sense of yourself. And it's safe to stay here. You don't have to go off somewhere else. You can just trust in this awareness sort of settling. Just being a little more aware of gravity. And if the attention feels really scattered, it can be really good to refine the attention like just a little more towards your breath or towards sound. We're going to start to just open up the awareness to include just notice what you notice in your body. And to whatever you notice in your body, like I was noticing tension in my shoulders. And I just whispered like an inner yes. This is the yes practice from Tara Brach. Doesn't mean I like it. It's just, yes, you're here. Yes, not in my belly. Tingles in my feet. So just spending some moments eating whatever arises in our awareness in the body with a yes. You're not trying to like it. You're just giving it the space to exist. If you don't like it, you can let that be met with a yes too. If you love it, you can let that be met with a yes too. Yes. And as we get closer to the body, we might start to notice, or you might start to notice emotions: restless, happy, sad, anxious, bored, agitated, content, ecstatic, full of love, full of joy. Yes, whatever. Yes. Not your fault. It's not yours to own. Everything is arising and passing away. Yes. And if yes doesn't work, you can play with this belongs. This belongs. You're not trying to make yourself like anything. You're just trying on. Yeah, what if this weren't wrong? This belongs. Or this weren't necessarily, yeah, it's like this belongs. You might relax, like just check in, notice where you're at. You can always come back here. That's grace. You don't have to figure out where you went. There's just here is always here, grace. The moment something arises in awareness, it's met with care. It's met with grace. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. The moment something arises, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, the moment it arises in awareness, it's met with care. This is by Gregory Boyle. This unwieldy love, which cannot be contained by our words, wants to accept all that we are and sees our humanity as the privileged place to encounter this magnanimous love. No part of our hardwiring or our messy selves is to be disparaged. Where we stand in all our mistakes and imperfection is holy ground. And thank you for your practice. I just took you off, took myself off the pin. So if you want, you can do the gallery view and just take a look at our little Sangha. As we transition to the rest of our day, if you want to just mention, hi, Marilee. If you want to mention in the chat, yeah. What's your any ahas or takeaways that you have? I always appreciate. I'm rubbing Phoenix with my foot. Rubbing her belly with my foot. Oh, good. Yeah, the author was Dana Faltz. That's right, Tina. I'll put her in the chat right now. I'm just looking at the chat again. Yes. All right. Thank you. Yeah, good. Yeah, sometimes we have to be firm. Yeah, I like that takeaway Marilyn says. Let's go ahead and bring a hand to our hearts. And we'll sing 3 times. We'll sing we, the blessings of metta. As we do this, it's the recognition that we are sharing the merits of our practice with each other and all beings everywhere. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. Blessings, metta to you. And I forgot to mention, I think I will be here next week. Yeah, we will have our sit next week because my live for the Client Catalyst is at 4. So I'll see you next week. And please share, spread the love so we can expand our Sangha. All right, have a beautiful day. You can take yourself off mute and say goodbye if you want.